In 1877, one man made a decision that shocked all of Japan. While the world moved into the age of rifles, trains, and modern armies, he chose the sword. Surrounded by thousands of government troops, the samurai drew his blade one final time and charged directly into gunfire. His name was Saigō Takamori, and many still call him the last samurai. For hundreds of years, the samurai ruled Japan. They were warriors bound by honor, men who carried swords everywhere they went, men who lived and died by a brutal code known as Bushido. For generations, they served powerful lords, fought bloody wars, and stood at the center of Japanese society. But by the 1800s, everything was changing. Japan had opened its doors to the outside world. Western technology flooded into the country. Factories rose across the cities. Steam trains thundered through the countryside, and modern rifles began replacing ancient blades. The government wanted a new Japan, a stronger Japan, an industrial Japan, a modern empire capable of standing beside Europe and America. And there was one problem. The samurai no longer fit into that future. Their power was stripped away. Their salaries disappeared. Their traditional hairstyles were mocked. And eventually, the government banned samurai from carrying swords in public. To many warriors, it felt like the death of their identity itself. Some samurai became farmers. Some became teachers. Others fell into poverty. But many burned with anger. They believed Japan was abandoning its soul. And no man felt that betrayal more deeply than one legendary warrior, Saigō Takamori. A man once hailed as a hero of Japan. A man who had helped build the new government itself. But now, he was preparing to destroy it. Saigō Takamori was not born a rebel. For years, he had been one of the most respected men in Japan. Born into a low-ranking samurai family in southern Japan, Saigō grew up in a world shaped by discipline, loyalty, and war. He was tall, quiet, and known for his intense sense of honor. Unlike many samurai, Saigō believed Japan needed to change. Foreign powers were growing stronger. Western empires were expanding across Asia, and many feared Japan would eventually be conquered if it remained isolated. So Saigō helped lead a revolution. Together with other powerful samurai, he helped overthrow the old shogunate government and restore power to the emperor. It became known as the Meiji Restoration. At first, Saigō was celebrated as a national hero. The new government modernized rapidly. Railroads spread across the country. Factories rose beside ancient towns. Western military advisors trained Japanese soldiers, and modern rifles flooded into the army. Japan was transforming faster than anyone imagined. But slowly, Saigō began to feel something was deeply wrong. The government was not simply modernizing Japan. It was erasing the old Japan entirely. Ancient traditions disappeared overnight. Western clothing replaced traditional robes. Young officials mocked the samurai as relics of the past. And the warrior class that had protected Japan for centuries was now treated like a burden. Saigō watched former samurai fall into poverty. Some sold their swords just to survive. Others wandered the streets without purpose. Many turned to alcohol. Some took their own lives. To Saigō, it felt like the soul of Japan was dying. And then came the final insult. The government outlawed samurai from carrying swords in public. For centuries, the sword had been more than a weapon. It was identity, honor, tradition itself. Now, the government wanted it gone. Across southern Japan, anger spread like fire. Former samurai gathered in secret. Some whispered about rebellion. Others begged Saigō to lead them. At first, he resisted. He knew the government possessed rifles, cannons, and modern armies. A war against them would be suicide. But the pressure continued growing. And eventually, Saigō Takamori made his decision. If Japan was going to destroy the samurai, then the samurai would make one final stand. In early 1877, the samurai finally rose against the government. Across southern Japan, thousands of former warriors answered Saigō Takamori's call. Some arrived carrying ancient family swords passed down for generations. Others wore old armor hidden away since the age of civil war. Many believed they were fighting for more than survival. They believed they were fighting for the soul of Japan itself. At first, the rebellion moved quickly. Saigō and his followers marched north from Kagoshima toward Tokyo. Villages welcomed them as heroes. Former samurai joined their ranks daily, and rumors spread across Japan that the government might actually fall. But the world had changed. This was no longer the Japan of swords and horseback warriors. The Imperial army was modern. Young conscript soldiers armed with rifles stood behind trenches and artillery. Western military advisors had trained them. Factories supplied endless ammunition. Steamships transported troops across the country faster than ever before. The samurai were marching into a new kind of war, and they were hopelessly outmatched. At first, many samurai still believed courage could overcome bullets. They charged rifle positions with swords drawn. Some wore traditional armor into machine gun fire. Others fought with almost no ammunition at all, again and again. The government guns tore them apart. Entire charges vanished in seconds. The dead covered roads, hillsides, and muddy fields. But even as the losses mounted, the samurai refused to surrender. To many of them, death was preferable to dishonor. The rebellion slowly became a nightmare. Food ran low. Ammunition disappeared. Wounded men were left behind in burning villages. Every battle pushed the samurai farther south. Every defeat shrank their numbers. And still, Saigō refused to give up. He knew the rebellion was dying. But turning back was impossible now. Thousands had already sacrificed everything for him. And across Japan, people watched in horror as the last generation of samurai was slowly annihilated by modern warfare. By the summer of 1877, the rebellion had become a death march. Exhausted survivors retreated through mountains and forests, while government forces closed in from every direction. Cannons echoed across the valleys, smoke covered entire towns, and bodies were buried in mass graves across southern Japan. The samurai were running out of time, and soon, they would make their final stand. By September 1877, the rebellion was finished. Only a few hundred samurai remained alive, starving, wounded, and surrounded. They retreated to Shiroyama overlooking Kagoshima. Below them, over 30,000 Imperial soldiers closed in from every direction. Cannons lined the hills. Warships filled the harbor. Rifle trenches scarred the valleys below. The government intended to destroy the samurai forever, and everyone knew it. The samurai had almost nothing left. Little food, almost no ammunition. Many could barely stand, but surrender was impossible. To these warriors, dishonor was worse than death. Throughout the night, artillery pounded the mountain. Explosions tore through trees and stone. Smoke covered the hills. Men vanished beneath collapsing earth while others bled beside dying campfires. The survivors stayed beside Saigō Takamori. Some sharpened swords one final time. Others wrote farewell poems beneath lantern light. Many already knew they would not survive the sunrise. As dawn approached, the bombardment stopped. An unnatural silence covered the mountain. The surviving samurai rose slowly to their feet. Armor cracked from weeks of war, faces hollow from exhaustion, hands trembling around blood-stained swords. Far below them, thousands of Imperial soldiers waited with rifles aimed uphill. The modern world stood on one side. The old world stood on the other. And then, the samurai charged. With swords raised high, they stormed directly into rifle fire. Gunshots thundered across the valley. Men fell instantly. Bodies rolled down the slopes. Smoke swallowed the battlefield. But some samurai kept advancing. A few reached the trenches alive. For a brief moment, the battle became hand-to-hand combat. Swords clashed against bayonets. Rifles became clubs. Mud turned red beneath thousands of footsteps. It was the last true samurai battle in Japanese history, and it lasted only minutes. One by one, the remaining warriors were cut down. Saigō Takamori had already been badly wounded. No one knows exactly how he died, but when the gunfire ended, the samurai were gone. The rebellion was over, and with it, an entire age of Japan disappeared forever. Today, Saigō is remembered not simply as a rebel, but as the symbol of a dying world. A man trapped between tradition and modernization, between the sword and the rifle. Because in the end, the last samurai knew he could never win.